Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 106. Yao Heart. As soon as Che Lufeng saw the group of drought fiends, he felt a stab of instinctive fear, but the enemies discovered him right that second. Chen Xing's heart thumped once. Damn, he had forgotten that Yuduo and Che Lufeng bore a grudge against each other. As expected, Yuduo completely ignored the rest of them, spurring his horse on as he turned and rushed towards Che Lufeng. He leapt off the back of the horse, slashing down at Che Lufeng. Already halfway through charging at the enemy ranks, Xiang Shu had to forcefully rein his war horse to a stop, turning to save Che Lufeng. Chen Xing joined in on the battle as well, his hand flashing with the light of the heart lamp, which exploded across the ground. In this dim, murky snowy land, the reflection was extremely visible, and a gap appeared in the drought fiend group. Chen Xing roared, "Xiang Shu! If you keep holding your grudge, your Enda might die." Finally, Xiang Shu had no choice but to raise his arm, splaying his palm open. Chen Xing called upon all his strength and lit up the heart lamp. With that, Xiang Shu transformed into the protector martial god, and with a weng, his white robes fluttered in the wind, his golden armor shining with 1,000 rays of bright light. He rose into the air from the back of his horse, leaping towards Che Lufeng, who was being dragged away by Yuduo. His hands, the backs of which were covered by that golden armor, turned and curled into fists. Chen Xing immediately came back to himself, and he shouted, "Cut off his arm!" Like a meteor streaking through the sky, Xiang Shu broke through the drought fiend formation. Leaping towards Yuduo and Che Lufeng, his left hand came forward in a defensive position, swinging a shining golden shield out. Chen Xing! What was that? When Chen Xing saw the shield, he immediately grew bug-eyed. Xiang Shu also found this very strange, but he was already in front of Yuduo, and he had no more time to think. With a wave of his shield, there was a dang, and the arm that Yuduo was using to hold onto Che Lufeng was cut off. Right after, Xiang Shu turned his body into the second swing of the shield, performing a perfect shield bash. With a dong, he sent Yuduo flying backwards. Che Lufeng fell into the snow. He struggled to his feet, staring dumbstruck at Xiang Shu, whose entire body was glowing with light. Xiang Shu began to walk towards Yuduo in the distance, but Chen Xing had already raced up behind him and pulled back the power of the heart lamp. He shouted, "Show mercy to the drought fiend." Sima Wei took this chance to move in front of him, tossing the chains in his hand out, tying Yuduo up. The group of drought fiends immediately dispersed, disappearing back into the plains all around them. The golden light shining all over Xiang Shu's body dissipated as well, and he glanced at Chen Xing, anger still writ clearly in his brows. Xiao Shan rushed over and looked at the two of them, asking in confusion, "How come you two have come?" One Shishan later, in the camp of the Akales. Xiang Shu's shield and sword had only appeared in that single second before they disappeared again. Xiao Shan, Sima Wei, Che Lufeng, Tuoba Yan, and Chen Xing were sitting in the tent as one of the members of the Akales tribe brought over some milk tea to ward off the chill. Outside, the sky was already fully dark. Chen Xing said, "We took a shortcut, so we got here before you." Xiang Shu didn't speak. Chen Xing continued, "I never expected that your goal was also Lake Barkle." Xiang Shu had heard what King Akele said, and he had keenly grasped the main point. Zhou Zhen's base was within the lake. Chen Xing recalled their battle from last time, and he guessed that the skeletal army that had surrounded and attacked Karakoram must have been located not too far from here. Since Zhou Zhen had retreated, that meant that he needed some time to organize his men and think of another strategy, and there were only two places he could have gone. One was the canyon in the Yin Mountains, and the second was here, to Lake Barkle. The Yin Mountains were too far from Karakoram, and Zhou Zhen was not likely to trek long distances to run into the mountains. But to the north, of all the places where a large army could be hidden, there was only Lake Barkle. Since the Akales people's camp was moved from the side of the lake, The consort had specially sent out scouts to search the area. On the island in the center of the lake, a strange sacrificial altar had appeared, and there was some colossal object wrapped in many animal skins lying on it. There was a strange energy coming from the island that prevented any mortals from approaching. Shulakong? Chen Xing asked uneasily. Originally, he thought that in front of this many people, Xiangshu would more or less cooperate with him, but he hadn't expected Xiangshu to stay exactly how he was before, persisting in his own ways from the beginning to the end. Having a spat in front of this group was nothing more than a side dish for him. Xiaoshan. Che Lukfeng was still thinking about that moment when Xiangshu had turned into the protector martial god, and he was still completely astounded. Anda, Che Lukfeng couldn't resist asking, just now, when you saved me, what happened? Don't know, Xiangshu finally said. All of you, get out. Tuoba Yan glanced at Chen Xing, then to Xiangshu, before leading the way out of the tent. Che Lukfeng still wanted to say something, but Xiangshu said in an irritated voice, get out. The group could only leave the tent one by one. Chen Xing still sat there in a kneeling position, watching people leave. Xiangshu, however, shot him a glare. Oh, including me? Chen Xing asked dejectedly. Want to go take a look at the island? I thought you weren't angry anymore. Xiangshu, I won't go. You want to put Zhou Zhen on his guard? What did I say? Why didn't you stay in Karakoram? Did I tell you to come with me? What do you treat Guowang as? In your eyes, is there still the great Chan Yu? Chen Xing. Chen Xing thought, you're the protector. I'm not a Hu person, so why do I need to recognize you as the great Chan Yu? You can't control me, a Han person, either, right? Chen Xing did his best to make his views known. I was afraid that when you faced down Zhou Zhen, something would happen. Xiangshu, Guowang already said that I would bring his artifact back. You don't believe it? In these past few days, Chen Xing had basically understood how Xiangshu's temper worked. He knew that he could always be persuaded, but would not bend under sheer force. As long as he lowered his head slightly, Xiangshu's anger would immediately dissipate. However, he couldn't swallow down that anger either, and after thinking it over and calculating a bit, he figured that Xiangshu was only angry because he was chugging Tuoba Yan's vinegar. What about Karakoram? The phoenix is guarding it. Chen Xing said. Xiangshu suddenly frowned. You had it help? Didn't you not want to ask it for help? Chen Xing thought, so you could tell. Xiangshu, so you did what you didn't want to do, and you spoke to it, begging it to come guard Karakoram, just to come find me. Chen Xing replied morosely, it doesn't count as begging, I don't want to explain any more. I came to find you because I don't want to be separated from you. If I put it like that, that's all right ba. Xiangshu. As soon as Chen Xing saw Xiangshu's expression, he knew that his cunning scheme was working, and he continued, chagrined, for this long, we've always been together. You went north on your own, so I felt some trepidation in my heart, I was afraid, all right. Then how come you went on your own to the stone tower? Xiangshu rapidly changed the topic of the conversation and asked in response, wasn't Tuoba Yan there to protect you? Chen Xing thought, enough ba. How come you keep such deep grudges? He's not my protector. Chen Xing said. What exactly is going on with you, for you to have such a strong negative opinion of him? He's never offended you nor wronged you, so why? If you want to chug vinegar, you shouldn't be chugging his ba. When Xiangshu was blocked by Chen Xing's point, he suddenly felt that his own temper had also come a little out of the blue. Chen Xing hadn't even spoken many words to Tuoba Yan in Chang'an, so why was it that every time he saw Tuoba Yan and Chen Xing together, he felt an unwarranted stifling feeling in his own chest? You, Xiangshu said. Didn't he come just because of you? What vinegar? Guowang, You watch your words. Chen Xing replied, how about you go ask him yourself? I'll call him in. Xiangshu. Chen Xing lifted aside the tent flap and left, while Xiangshu rose impatiently to his feet. In reality, he hadn't expected Chen Xing to follow him here just like that, as if he had calculated that he would come here to Lake Barkle. You've run so many times. Xiangshu said. Which time wasn't Guowang chasing after you the entire way, and yet you dare to show me this attitude? I see that you have never treated Guowang as the great Chan Yu. Is it that every time you butt heads with me in front of a bunch of bystanders, you feel? When he got to this point, Xiangshu suddenly stopped speaking, his brows furrowing, his face filling with confusion. When had that happened? Xiangshu couldn't remember it at all. He had left Karakoram with Che Lufeng as a spur-of-the-moment decision, and in reality, it hadn't been impossible for him to bring Chen Xing along. However, without understanding why, there was a strong urge to get payback in his heart, as if he knew that Chen Xing would definitely come chasing after him. As expected, Chen Xing had come after him, but it was under the protection of Tuobayan, so Xiangshu grew even more displeased. What exactly was happening here? Xiangshu could not doubt things more than he already was. Great Chan Yu, Tuobayan said, coming in. Chen Xing and I definitely are not the way you think we are. I feel that I have to explain it properly to you. Go away. Xiangshu was so angry that he moved to beat up Tuobayan. Chen Xing passed through the campground, and Xiao Shan came racing up, asking, what happened in Karakoram? Chen Xing replied, a little bit of trouble, but that side's already all right. Where's Lu Ying? And White Mane? Xiao Shan replied, I had it go back to Karasha first, and stand guard over the mountain. When are we going to save Lu Ying? Are we going to cleanse Zhou Zhen first? Chen Xing looked at Xiao Shan and made a gesture, meaning you decide ba. Xiao Shan stood still and thought for a bit, before saying, let's catch Zhou Zhen first ba. Lu Ying's antlers are in his hands, do you remember last time at the Yin Mountains? Chen Xing remembered. At that time, Sima Yu had the antlers of the white deer and had re-refined them with resentful energy, and these antlers were artifacts that had fallen into Wang Zi's grasp long since. The Zheng drum could awaken the dead, and under the power of the antlers, even white bones could gather together again. They had to figure out a way to take back both the antlers and the Zheng drum. Though Xiao Shan was small physically, and he looked the same as when the two of them had just met, mentally he had retained the level of thought that he had attained before the tide of eternity had activated. Compared to back then, he had matured a lot, and his thoughts and actions were very organized. When will Zhou Zhen come? Chen Xing asked himself, looking towards Lake Barkle outside the camp. Xiao Shan said, I've sent wolves to go scout. That pile of bones is currently moving around in the lake. Not far away, Xiangshu and Tuobayan left the tent, seemingly having come to a mutual understanding, at least temporarily. Xiangshu began to give out orders to lay out an ambush on the shores of Lake Barkle, preparing to ambush Zhou Zhen when he returned. Since they had rushed here before he returned, Xiangshu decided to use all the power at his command to get rid of Zhou Zhen here and now. Let's go check on Yuduo first ba, Chen Xing said to Xiao Shan. Yuduo was wrapped up in chains in an out-of-the-way area of the camp. All around him were Akele's people, clearly they were expressing great shock at seeing their once prince revived to be a drought fiend. There were also people filled with sympathy who wanted to feed him some water, never mind that drought fiends didn't need to drink water. Sima Wei stood to one side, guarding Yuduo. Not a shred of light could be seen from his murky eyes. Yuduo had been tied to a pillar, but he was quiet, his head lowered, not moving at all. Chen Xing approached Yuduo, pressing his hand on the area over Yuduo's heart, but Sima Wei suddenly said, there is energy in his heart that is helping him retain his sense of self. Chen Xing replied, I know. He has never fully lost himself, but what exactly is this energy? Last time, Chen Xing had also discovered Yuduo's condition. As a drought fiend, he had almost never completely obeyed Zhou Zhen and the drought fiend kings, but had rather kept a little bit of his own consciousness. He clung to carrying out his revenge on Zhou Zhen and Che Lufeng. Chen Xing injected the power of the heart lamp into his chest, and he found that that heart seemed to have a strange Yao power. "Bring him into the tent," Chen Xing said. "Let me try expelling the resentment in his body. If my luck is good, then perhaps." Oh! This chain! When Chen Xing lifted the chains binding Yuduo, he suddenly discovered that the metal chains were covered in runes. With the mana that had returned with the revival of all magic, they flashed with a weak light. "This is an artifact!" Chen Xing exclaimed. "Who found it?" Xiao Shan said, "Did you forget? Lu Ying had White Mane bring it from the Yin Mountains. He said that you might have some use for it." Chen Xing remembered now. These were the chains that he had been tied up with last time, when he was captured and brought to the summit of the Yin Mountains. Back then, Xiao Shan had even used Kangshan Yuli but could not break them, so they must have been extremely powerful artifacts. Chen Xing tested out putting his mana into those chains, and the chains immediately shrank and coiled in on itself, hanging off Yuduo's neck like a dog leash. No matter how Chen Xing looked at it, he felt that that wasn't very respectful, so he untied the chain and tied it around Yuduo's remaining arm instead. Yuduo moved slightly, and Xiao Shan immediately pulled out his claws, watching him warily. However, Sima Wei reached a hand out, pressing down on the shoulder of the arm that Yuduo had lost. After all, both of them were drought fiends, and Yuduo seemed to be able to sense Sima Wei's attempt at placating, so he gradually calmed. Sima Wei nudged him again, making him turn around, and Chen Xing, still holding the chain, walked into the tent. "Let him lie down flat," Chen Xing said quietly. Sima Wei had Yuduo lie down on the ground, and Chen Xing knelt by his side, igniting the heart lamp. Just like how he had expelled the devil god's blood with Sima Wei and Fei Tian Ye, he pressed his hand against Yuduo's chest. In that instant, the heart lamp's brilliance filled the meridians all over Yuduo's body, gathering without pause towards his heart. Yuduo's heart was still beating. That was a heart that had not yet died. It had already been completely corrupted by the devil god's blood. It had left its original body, existing independently in Yuduo's body. That heart was very large, taking up almost 3 times the space a normal heart would in the chest cavity. Where exactly did this heart come from? After injecting the power of the heart lamp in, Chen Xing found that things were not as simple as he thought they were. Its light gathered in Yuduo's heart meridian, rapidly cleansing Yuduo's entire body. At the beginning, Yuduo kept struggling, but later, he calmed as the resentment was expelled. But that strange Yao heart in his chest kept vibrating, warding off the heart lamp's invasion. He had almost broken through. Chen Xing put in all his effort, but he suddenly heard an impatient voice from outside. "You dare to stop Guowang?" Xiang Shu threatened. "Let him in," Chen Xing immediately said. Xiang Shu lifted the curtain out of the way and entered the tent. Upon seeing that Chen Xing was currently fighting to save Yuduo, he suddenly froze. "Chen Xing, what's wrong?" Xiang Shu's brows were furrowed as people began to argue again outside. Chen Xing said, "Zhou Zhen has come? Right now, things are in a tense situation. Xiao Shan, you go take a look outside. King Akele's consort is about to give birth," Xiang Shu said. "Do you know how to deliver a child?" Chen Xing. If Chen Xing was to withdraw the power of the heart lamp right now, while the resentment that was keeping Yuduo alive had already been exorcised, the seed of the lamp in his heart meridian had yet to be lit. It would cause him to turn into a completely dead corpse. However, because of the battle, the queen's delicate condition was disturbed, so she was about to give birth. What were they to do now? I'm currently saving her eldest son," Chen Xing said. "Can she hold out for a while longer?" Xiangshu frowned. How long will she have to wait? The Yao power of that heart was extremely powerful, constantly fending off Chen Xing's heart lamp. This was definitely not something that Wang Zi could accomplish, which meant that this heart had been retrieved from some great Yaoguai's body, before it was transplanted into Yuduo. I don't know. Chen Xing said. Just at this time, King Akele rushed in as well, saying, "Doctor, please save my wife." But halfway through his sentence, the king of the Akele saw the scene before him and also froze. All right, Chen Xing could only say. Bring the queen in as well, hand them all over to me. As I treat the dead person, I'll help her with her delivery, that'll be how it goes. End chapter. Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 107. Implications. With that, King Akele carried his wife in. As soon as the midwife saw Yuduo's corpse, she was so scared that she began to shout loudly, and Chen Xing hurried to say, "It's okay. Hey, don't run off." A half-screen was erected in front of the bed, and Chen Xing sat right in the middle. He pressed one hand against Yuduo's chest, while he waved the other hand aimlessly, before grabbing the slippery, sweaty hand of the consort. "Yuduo! Yuduo!" The consort's voice shook. "Doctor, I'm begging you. Focus on giving birth to your child," Chen Xing hurried to say. "Don't think about anything else." When Yuduo heard his mother's voice, he immediately began to move uneasily. "Use acupuncture on her," Chen Xing said to Xiangshu. "I don't know how," Xiangshu said. Chen Xing commanded, "Listen to my orders." Last time, the consort had gone into labor by coincidence. This time, she had disturbed the fetus by riding out to battle on a war horse despite being pregnant in order to save her eldest son. When Chen Xing did the calculations, today was almost 20 days earlier than when the consort had given birth the last time he had arrived at Chi Li Chuan. The autumn close festival was also almost here, there was only half a month left until then. The autumn deity festival of the south was approaching. This time, he would definitely protect the consort and her son, and he would not let any regrettable things happen once again. 3 kun below the neck, Chen Xing said to Xiangshu. "Xiao Shan, our little kid's born just like this." "Don't get too close," Chen Xing immediately said. "Right now, she is in great pain. Xiao Shan, come over to where I am." Xiangshu did as Chen Xing described and inserted the needle. Chen Xing activated the heart lamp, sending its power into Yuduo's heart meridians, while on the other side, he called upon the power of the heart lamp in Xiangshu's body. Every time Xiangshu jabbed another needle into the consort, every needle carried a gentle glow. Chen Xing's forehead was covered with sweat, as the heart in Yuduo's chest was currently fighting against the purification of the heart lamp. "What exactly did you guys put in Yuduo's chest?" Chen Xing asked doubtfully. The consort didn't stop panting as she said, "Kajera, that was what Kajera personally handed to us. He told us that as long as Yuduo had this heart, he would be able to live." The consort's condition had stabilized somewhat. Upon seeing that they were reaching the critical point, Chen Xing hurriedly said, "Push, the baby is almost out." The consort's loud shout was accompanied by the midwife's joyful cry. In that instant, Chen Xing immediately sensed that there were 2 strange currents of energy circling around inside the tent. That was the primal energy of life and death, accompanying the little prince's birth and Yuduo's death, and it revolved around them like the Taiji, gathering into a vortex. Xiangshu and Xiao Shan immediately sensed this flow of spiritual qi. These 2 energies began to converge into one, and Chen Xing immediately grew wary, perhaps, something would happen that was out of his control. Just as he was about to pull his hand back, he found that, to the sound of a clear wail, the power of life was flowing ceaselessly into Yuduo's body. That Yao heart instantly stopped its beating. All of its defenses collapsed, and the power of the heart lamp was sucked in. As that power was gathered up in his chest, a bright light shot out, engulfing Yuduo's body. "It's a little prince." The wailing continued on ceaselessly. Yuduo's eyes blinked slightly, and he grabbed Chen Xing's hand, slowly rising from the bed. "Mother," Yuduo said in the Akele tongue. "Did he?" The consort's face was sheet white, and she turned her head in disbelief to watch Yuduo. Yuduo pushed himself up from the bed, turning and clambering into a sitting position, using his one remaining limb to grab his mother's hand. The people inside the tent grew nervous, but Chen Xing waved his hand gently, indicating that there was no issue. "My son," the consort's eyes filled with warm tears, and she raised her hand, stroking Yuduo's cheek. Yuduo used his murky eyes to look towards that newly born infant, and with one hand, he brought his little brother in front of the consort. "What happened just now?" Xiang Shu asked, astonished. Chen Xing keenly sensed that the process of Yuduo's death and rebirth was completely different from Sima Wei's. His birth was the result of three different kinds of energies working together. Wang Zi had transplanted a Yao heart in him, Chen Xing had expelled the resentment in his body, and finally, the little brother born from the mother who was connected to him by blood, seemed to have shared with him the power of life, and called him back to the living realm. Perhaps, unknowingly, he had created a new great Yaoguai. Chen Xing suddenly felt that he was a little dangerous. 1K later, in the royal tent, King Akele knelt in gratitude on the ground, pushing a box in front of Chen Xing before personally opening it, offering its contents up to Chen Xing and Xiang Shu. Inside were 4 rings. "My Akele people will forever remember the life-saving grace bestowed upon us by the great Chanyu and the divine doctor," the king of the Akele said. "The Shulu family has saved my wife and younger son, and protected my elder son." Without waiting for Xiang Shu's reply, Chen Xing accepted King Akele's gift. Upon seeing this, Xiang Shu couldn't resist saying in the Han language, "Why are you so impolite?" Chen Xing replied, "You cannot return something a Xiongnu person gives you, didn't you tell me this?" Xiang Shu's retort was stopped just like that, and he could only hold back. They hadn't even talked through the reason they were arguing before, and this entire way, Chen Xing had stayed meek and subservient, putting up with him. Finally, he didn't feel like holding back any longer, and he unconsciously returned to how he had been previously. "Xiang Shu." Suddenly, Xiang Shu felt again that something was a little off. He seemed to have said these words before, but he had forgotten when he had said them. King Akele didn't understand what the two of them were saying, and he said to Xiang Shu in the ancient Xiongnu tongue, "Please, if the great Chanyu would bestow a name on this child." "The Akele people live on the shores of Lake Barkal," Xiang Shu said. He thought for a bit, before saying, "Then he shall be named N.A. Doro B.A." Chen Xing finished his sentence. "Xiang Shu." Xiang Shu looked oddly at Chen Xing, but Chen Xing merely replied, "The great Chanyu wanted to say this name, isn't that right?" Internally, Xiang Shu could not be more suspicious. Clearly, Chen Xing had once again put on the mask of keeping public and private affairs separate, because he had been angered by Xiang Shu's phrase of "What do you treat me as?" It was because of that now, he treated Xiang Shu as just the great Chanyu in front of King Akele. "King Akele, would you like to chat with Yuduo?" Chen Xing thought that since he was reunited with his son after so long, they should have quite a lot to say. But after Yuduo had revived, he had gone off to who knows where, and he hadn't come to visit his father either, as if he had something on his mind. With that, he glanced at Xiang Shu, and the two of them rose together, leaving the royal tent behind. The snow and wind had lessened somewhat, and the snowstorm had stopped. What replaced it was a light snow that danced through the air, blanketing their surroundings. Xiang Shu and Chen Xing walked out of the tent, and they came to a stop in front of the empty ground. Chen Xing's entire face was drawn in an expression of unhappiness. Now, it had turned into him having a tantrum instead. He could also tell that Xiangshu's anger had dissipated, and he had something he wanted to say. Xiangshu, Guowang hasn't even said anything, but you're already unhappy. Chen Xing turned his head and furrowed his brows as he studied him, but at that, Xiangshu began to avoid Chen Xing's gaze a little, growing a little self-conscious. Chen Xing knew that with Xiangshu's personality, these words were an apology. He wondered, when Tuoba Yan had talked privately to Xiangshu, how much of an effect his words had. Either way, Xiangshu now no longer cared about Tuoba Yan. But Chen Xing still cared a lot about it. With how I've treated you on this entire journey, you still haven't realized. How minute is Tuoba Yan compared to this? And things had happened just like this last time. For some unknown reason, Xiangshu was always very wary of him. It's because he doesn't trust me, ba. The two of them stood there, looking at each other. Suddenly, Chen Xing said, "You think that I haven't treated you like the great Chan Yu? To tell you the truth, yes. To me, you are not the great Chan Yu, you are only my protector. Maybe you don't know what being the protector means, but I know. The exorcist and the protector will trust each other, no matter if." Instantly, a minute change came over Xiangshu's expression, but it was at this moment that Che Lufeng hurried over. "Anda," Che Lufeng said, "there is news from the scouts." "Xiangshu, keep talking. You go take care of this first, ba." As soon as Chen Xing saw Che Lufeng, he was no longer in the mood to continue talking about this. Xiangshu could only say to Chen Xing, "Stay in the camp. In a bit, Guowang has more to ask you." Saying this, Xiangshu turned and left with Che Lufeng. Chen Xing watched his silhouette from the back, a little resigned, and he sighed, walking off in another direction. Tuoba Yan, Xiao Shan, Sima Wei, and Yuduo were sitting at the other side of the Akele's camp, soaking up the warmth of the campfire. "How come you all aren't in the tent?" Chen Xing asked curiously. "Tuoba Yan, didn't you and the great Chan Yu want to speak?" Xiao Shan formed a snowball and tossed it to Sima Wei, who tossed it to Yuduo, who tossed it to Tuoba Yan, who then tossed it to Chen Xing. Chen Xing tossed it back to Xiao Shan, and the three people and two drought fiends began to play a boring game. "What did you and Xiangshu talk about?" Chen Xing couldn't resist asking. Tuoba Yan shrugged, saying, "I only told him that I don't like you. If he took offense to that, then I would end myself in front of him. I do not wish that you two argue because of me." "Hey," Chen Xing said, torn between tears and laughter. "Are you insane? Tuoba Yan, I heard you Han people tell many stories. Wu Zixu conquered Chu only for his body to be sunk into the river by a fisherman, Jing Kai assassinating the Qin emperor, but at the cost of offering up Fan Yuki's head. Since the great Chan Yu does not believe me, then what harm is there in using my death as proof? After all, my life has long since not been worth mentioning, and if it can be of any use, then take it as you wish. If you're willing to stop Wang Zi and fulfill my desire, then I will die." "Enough," Chen Xing said, anger in his tone, but that could not stop the ache in his heart. But Tuoba Yan insisted on finishing his sentence. "If you cannot, then that's all right, as long as you've done your best." After a short silence, Chen Xing's heart was filled with guilt as he said, "Tuoba Yan, sorry." Tuoba Yan waved his hand, indicating it was all right. Chen Xing continued, "You're angry." "I'm not," Tuoba Yan managed a smile. "I really am not. I just wish not to cause you two to harbor reservations about each other. I did not think it through. Xiao Shan, you clearly like Chen Xing, why don't you admit it?" "Xiao Shan!" Chen Xing shouted, at the end of his rope. "Ah!" Tuoba Yan was a little puzzled, and he said, "Little brother, we haven't met before, right? Why do you say this?" "Xiao Shan, you don't know me, but I know you. Admit it, you like Chen Xing. Stop talking about such boring topics." Chen Xing immediately said, upon seeing that the atmosphere had lightened a little. "Stop right there, Xiao Shan, stop speaking nonsense." Xiao Shan stared at Yuduo, reluctantly letting out a whoa. He then asked, "Why are you all so keen on saying one thing but thinking another?" Sima Wei responded, "Humans always say one thing but think something else." The corners of Chen Xing's mouth twitched, and he glanced at Yuduo, asking, "You're not going to go chat with your parents?" Yuduo's hair was unbound and in disarray, and he lifted his head, glancing at Chen Xing. Chen Xing walked forward and tied his hair up. "They are no longer my parents," Yuduo said. "I do not even know who I am." "Great exorcist, can you tell me who I am?" Chen Xing glanced at the group, and he guessed that perhaps before he had come, they had been discussing this very question. Xiao Shan must also have told him about many things, as well as everyone's identity. "Who are you?" Sima Wei asked. "I don't know," Yuduo replied, lost. "And who are you?" Sima Wei said, "I also do not know." From the tent in the distance came the sound of an infant crying. When Yuduo heard this sound, he couldn't resist turning his head and glancing in that direction. "That is your ditty," Chen Xing said. "Go see them ba." At this moment, the king of the Akales lifted the tent flap aside, standing in front of the royal tent, glancing over to where they were. Chen Xing could sense that perhaps, some strange connection existed between the two brothers, Yuduo and Nataro. And as of now, he imagined that the Akales tribe was also facing a great headache in how to settle him in. Their eldest prince had returned, but had become how he was today, and back then, the king of the Akales had brought him into the Karasha mountains and personally buried him. Was he still a human? But Chen Xing believed that no matter what Yuduo became, to the Akales king and consort, he would always be their child. The king of the Akales must have much that he wanted to say to him. "Go," Sima Wei said. "Whatever you want to do will not lack for this bit of time." With that, Yuduo dragged his heavy, clumsy feet as he walked to the royal tent. The king of the Akales turned and walked into the tent, leaving them with nothing more than a silhouette of his back. Chen Xing looked in the direction that Yuduo had left in, when Xiao Shan asked, "What are we doing next? Is Gege ambushing them? When can we go back to Karasha?" Chen Xing knew that Xiao Shan was a little anxious, having been away from Lu Ying's side for too long. Lake Barkal was only a 3-day journey from Karasha, so he urgently wanted to return and take a look, but because of Chen Xing's request, he hadn't left on his own. Looking at it from this perspective, no matter if it was because Lu Ying had told him, "You must listen to Chen Xing," or if Xiao Shan had originally trusted Chen Xing unconditionally, that always made others think that he was a very obedient and innocent child. "Go back and sleep," Chen Xing said. "You all must be tired. After Xiang Shu ambushes Zhouzhen, we'll head out to Karasha." Chen Xing had one more mission, which was to completely purify Zhouzhen, so that every time Wang Zi sent out a subordinate, he lost one, and every time he sent out two, he lost a pair. Perhaps because Sima Wei had been kidnapped by the other side, Wang Zi no longer dared to lightly send his drought fiend kings out to do battle, but was rather thinking of other strategies. And Chen Xing could vaguely sense that Lu Ying's request had a deeper meaning behind it, as if he was stopping them from heading there, or he was saying that they should not act too hastily. Perhaps, on this journey north, there would be other variables that would change. Tuaba Yan had spent the whole day rushing here, and he was also a little tired, so he yawned. Chen Xing then had them go into an empty tent to catch up on sleep, as he began to lead Xiao Shan away. Sima Wei replied, "I do not need to sleep." Chen Xing said, "Drought Fiend King, can I trouble you to head to the lake shore and see what the protector is doing? If there is a need, listen to his orders, at least for now." Sima Wei nodded and left the camp. After Xiao Shan entered the tent, he slumped onto the bedroll and fell asleep. This tent let in wind everywhere, and it was so cold that Chen Xing was a little unable to handle it. Just as he was about to wrap himself tightly in a blanket, the phoenix flew in, and instantly the air inside the tent became as warm as spring. "Do you need help?" Chongming took human form. "Karakoram is okay. I've sent out birds who are currently investigating, but it seems like your side here also needs helpers." Chongming had adjusted his strategy, and he had grown a little more polite to Chen Xing. This time, he had to find a chance to finish this third task as well. Chen Xing replied wearily, "No need. Are you so eager to be rid of me? You're not even willing to keep me company for a few more days." Chongming walked to one side, sitting down cross-legged on the floor. His red-gold eyes glanced over at the soundly asleep Xiao Shan, before turning to Chen Xing. "I can help you completely rout the White Bone Army," Chongming said. Chen Xing replied, "I believe in Xiangshu. This little bit of trouble, he can still take care of." Chongming asked coldly, "I want to have a chat with you. What exactly do you want?" Chen Xing didn't respond. He turned around, reached out, and pulled Xiao Shan to him, pulling him into his embrace. Chongming continued, "You have long since had an idea in mind. You are a very intelligent human, much more intelligent than many of the humans Guowang has seen before. What harm is there for both of us to speak a little more openly and freely?" Chen Xing's eyelids fought to stay open as sleep tried to drag him under. He replied, "Why do I always feel like I'm very dumb?" "Chongming, your intelligence lies in your great wisdom. For example, right now, you must already have the third task well thought out in your mind." Chen Xing yawned. "Even if you flatter me, that is of no use, I won't fall for your tricks. Chongming, Guowang, however, is curious about one thing." Chen Xing turned his head and glanced at Chongming. If, back then, Guowang hadn't rebuilt Shulakong's body, Chongming asked, narrowing his eyes, "Then right now, who would your protector be?" Chen Xing. This question was one that he had never thought of, but since Chongming had asked, Chen Xing suddenly grew a little curious as well. If, on the day that the tides of time had turned back, Chongming and Iupiter had not planted those two variables that had come before everything else, then when he returned to the depths of the prison, Xiangshu would no longer have been there. Though Chen Xing had always subconsciously avoided thinking about this question, as the human instinct of avoiding harm and seeking benefits caused him to be unwilling to consider the worst-case scenario, this riddle was one that he could not resist thinking about. If without Xiangshu, he had to relive these 3 years, what would happen? With that, my protector would probably have become my adopted son. Chen Xing lifted a hand and patted Xiao Shan in his arms. "The way I see it, it might not have been," Chongming replied easily. Chen Xing. Countless conjectures, little by little, grew clear in Chen Xing's mind. Some causes and effects that seemed to be wholly unrelated suddenly became linked together through some strange connection. Iupiter has already left you. You will live for a long, long time, and you will also find the one who will accompany you for a lifetime, that protector martial god. That was the last sentence that Chen Xing had heard before he lost consciousness and sank into the darkness. If he hadn't met Xiangshu, then the him who had lost all his memories would definitely stand, disappointed, at the door of the prison. Finally, he would accept the reality that the heart lamp had guided him wrong, and he would leave Xiangyang City to head north. Without being kidnapped by Xiangshu in a civilian residence, he would arrive half a day earlier at my city. He would not have run into Feng Qianjun, but in the end, they would still get to know each other in Chang'an. That would just have been a delay of quite a while. That day, he would have ridden through Mount Longzhong, and because it was relatively early in the day, he would not make camp outside that valley, so he wouldn't have run into drought fiends. Nor would he have met Zhou Yi. He would have left Jingzhou just like that, heading towards Chang'an. After arriving, he would have definitely gone to greet Yuan Xian, and subsequently met. So, if he followed Xiangshu's plan, and everything were to happen again, his protector was very likely to have become. Chen Xing flipped over and left the tent. He wrapped himself in his outer robe, mounted his horse, and left, disappearing into the snow and wind. Xiangshu. Chen Xing turned his horse in the direction of the lake, spurring it on as he shouted. Xiangshu. Where are you? The banks of the lake were hazy with snow and fog, and a shadow leapt out from within a copse of trees, pouncing on Chen Xing. It brought him rolling off his horse, pulling him into its embrace as they rolled a few times. You're insane. Xiangshu's head and body was covered with snow as he hugged Chen Xing. He forced his rage down as he continued, What did you come after me this time for? Chen Xing watched Xiangshu mutely. In that instant, he seemed to understand why Xiangshu was strangely antagonistic towards Tuobayan before the tide of eternity was activated. Xiangshu must have also thought about this. With the shattering of the Dinghai pearl, this self-destructive behavior would undoubtedly cause Chen Xing to be left to Tuobayan. And this possibility remained rooted in his brain, which caused him to have such strong hostility towards Tuobayan. Xiangshu. Xiangshu looked at Chen Xing with doubt. Chen Xing couldn't stop panting, and he said, No, nothing. I was just, suddenly worried about you, and I missed you, a little. I didn't know what you were doing, so I couldn't resist coming out here to find you. Xiangshu. Che Lukfeng hid himself behind the brush, watching the scene from afar. Xiangshu and Chen Xing looked at each other for a moment. Chen Xing had a handful of snow, and suddenly a mischievous urge rose in him. With a paw, he slapped it onto Xiangshu's face, before he began to laugh loudly, Ha ha ha. Xiangshu. Xiangshu's lungs almost exploded from that anger, and he picked Chen Xing up by the arm and muffled his mouth. Chen Xing didn't stop struggling, even as he was brought into the copse by Xiangshu. Don't make a sound. Xiangshu ordered, his brows furrowed deeply. We're currently hiding. Chen Xing half laid in the snow, his entire body covered with snow. He sent his gaze out over the trees, seeing the island in the middle of Lake Barkle. Did they say when they were coming? Chen Xing asked. Are you insane? Xiangshu asked menacingly, forcefully keeping his voice low. Ha ha ha, that's right, Chen Xing replied. Che Lukfeng. Xiangshu had no more temper left to deal with Chen Xing. A little while before, in the Akele's royal tent, he had still been furious, and his attitude made it seem like he was ready to fight with him for 3 days and 3 nights without end. But after Xiangshu had left for less than half a shishan, he had come chasing after him like a fool. Was this the same person? Chen Xing looked outside, his eyes flicking back and forth, before he looked at Xiangshu, asking, Are you cold? I brought you some food. And saying this, he pulled out some roasted meat. Xiangshu took it, saying, How about you? Have you eaten yet? Chen Xing stuffed some dried meat into his mouth, handing some to Che Lukfeng as he did so. Che Lukfeng took it without saying a single word, sending Xiangshu a questioning gaze. Xiangshu indicated that they should keep waiting here, and after eating some dried meat, he lifted his head to watch the sky. It was almost midnight, and the sky was pitch black. The snow and wind had slowly calmed, but Chen Xing was still so cold that he shivered. Of his own accord, he scooted into Xiangshu's embrace, and Xiangshu couldn't do anything else but wrap his arms around him, using his own body temperature to warm him up. Chen Xing said, When Zhou Zhen comes, wake me. Che Lukfeng quietly watched the soundly asleep Chen Xing, before he looked at Xiangshu. Xiangshu was silent, his gaze meeting Che Lukfeng's, and the two of them remained silent in this pitch-black snowy expanse. Yes, Xiangshu replied, seemingly in response to a question that Che Lukfeng had yet to ask before they came here. What? Speak ba, we've got to clear this up. Che Lukfeng's eyes reddened, and he turned his head. He didn't say word. Chen Xing didn't know how long he had slept for when a rustling sound started to come from the lake. In the distance, the White Bones army appeared, and a streak of black flame flew over at twilight, landing on the island in the middle of the lake. The Bone army was like a white mat that covered the ground as they sent the snow on the ground flying, before they sank into the lake, accompanied by the sounds of ice cracking. Xiang Shu gently placed Chen Xing in the tree, taking off the royal cloak he wore over his armor and blanketing him with it. He then made a gesture, and the tile warriors left the forest, borrowing the protection of the darkness to approach the lake. Hundreds of thousands of white bones had all sunk into the waters, and Zhou Zhen put away the zheng drum, 1 foot stepping on the ice. A path of white bone appeared across the lake, bringing him to the island in the middle. The black flame took the physical form of Wangzi, who stood quietly on the empty ground. Zhou Zhen asked solemnly, "The plan has failed. What should we do next?" The black flames that made up Wangzi's body billowed as he replied, "There is an important matter I am taking care of, and I cannot split my attention. The situation in Shazhu has already reached a critical point, and I am unable to send out troops to support you. We will not be able to conquer Longcheng, so you must find another way." Zhou Zhen replied, "I'm thinking that perhaps I can send the troops under my command at them. Taking care of Karasha first can still be a solution, but I hadn't expected that Shulakong would suddenly return at this time. Wangzi, has Che Lufeng drunk the devil god's blood?" Zhou Zhen fell thoughtfully silent, before finally shaking his head. "He said that he has not yet decided," Zhou Zhen responded. Wangzi let out a cold, scornful chuckle. "That is not urgent. Right now, even if you don't provoke Shulakong, he will still come to us of his own accord. We can adjust our plans a little. After capturing him, you will head to Karasha and figure out how to get the white deer's corpse in our hands. The white deer cannot hold out for much longer." Zhou Zhen hesitantly ventured, "That great exorcist that's following by his side has already activated the defensive walls of Karakoram, so I'm afraid that the magic you have imparted there will not be of much use. Not to mention, the Grey Wolf's refinement has not yet been completed, and it may not be able to do battle right now." Wangzi replied easily, "Let's take a gamble then. There will always be gambles in life, isn't that right? Last time, the effects were already proven, otherwise Shulakong would not have allowed himself to be captured without a fight. If this gamble is won, then you..." Suddenly, the black flames that had gathered to form Wangzi were disturbed, and with the arrival of a billow of green leaves, another burst of power brimming with the vigor of life instantly shattered the black flames. Wangzi's voice instantly grew flustered. "Feng Qianjun. How did he find us here? Guards!" The black flames exploded outwards, before disappearing suddenly. Just at this moment, an extremely faint sound of flowing liquid came from all around the lake, as if there was someone currently pouring fluid into the lake. Zhou Zhen was observing his surroundings when he suddenly sensed danger, as if at that very moment, he had already become the quarry for a hunter. Zhou Zhen slowly approached the altar at the center of the lake, pressing one hand on the animal pelt, firmly grasping that huge being. "Who's there?" Zhou Zhen's murky eyes looked into the darkness, while his other hand held the zheng drum. On the shore of Lake Barkle, under the fractured ice, white bones once again slowly climbed out. Torches were lit up in quick succession, covering the valleys and the hills, as the akales and the tile revealed themselves. Xiang Shu, standing on the outer perimeter, was wearing a full-body set of armor, and everyone held a torch in one hand, creating a long, winding fiery dragon that surrounded Lake Barkle. The great Chanyu who rules over the 4 seas and the prairies, and all the people under the sky. Xiang Shu intoned, before tossing his torch into the lake. With that, 4,000 torches flew into Lake Barkle, igniting the oil on the surface of the lake. In that instant, the surface of Lake Barkle erupted with blazing flames. End chapter.